everyone. I am Colonel Manish Kochhar, co-founder of Value Talks and co-host for today's talk. I'll be hosting this webinar with a very learned and a very knowledgeable Mr. Paramjit Lamba, who is a known name in the HR industry. Hi, Paramjit. How are you?
All well, sir.
Okay. So, Value Talks, as you all know, is a platform for providing advisory services on issues that are important to individuals as well as communities. And it is an effort uh, to invite experts from the fields of career, finance, real estate, education, etc., and allied fields. For live talks, we have a panel of experts in which we have experts from real estate, mutual fund, stock market, education, study abroad. And then we have from construction uh, and interior designing, architecture, etc. From all these fields, we and legal. From all these fields, we have the experts, and these experts provide valuable, advice to our uh, audience. And we have a YouTube channel as well as a Telegram channel. We are also there on WhatsApp. The members post their queries after listening to all these talks. If they have any specific queries, they ask here. If it's still not resolved, they put it in the chat in various platforms, and we approach our experts and they resolve those queries. So it's a very interactive platform and a very valuable one for getting genuine advice on various things which are important to all of us. We have till date held talks about, we have around 20, 15, 20 talks, and they have been uploaded on the YouTube channel. So please, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, please subscribe to that. It will be of immense value to you. Um, so today we bring to you a very relevant topic, which is very important for all those uh, defense officers who are planning to make a transition into corporate sector. And it's a mission for myself. I have set it as a mission for myself to, help and make this transition a very smooth one for all those who are planning to do it. So, and today I have with me as co-host Mr. Paramjit Lamba, and Paramjit is, he is a known name in the HR industry. Welcome, Paramjit. I'll just give a brief introduction about you. Uh, he is a specialist in performance management from IIM Ahmedabad, work study from NITI, which is, I think, being named as IIM Mumbai now, and competency mapping from XLRI, operations management from Wharton Business School, University of Pennsylvania. I'm already getting kind of a complex by reading this thing. And he is a certified administrator of 16 PF, MBTI, and Thomas Profiling psychometric tests. All those who are making a transition, you may have to undergo psychometric test in when you are interviewed, and then when you make a mark on the interviewer, and then they may ask you to undergo a psychometric test. So we will talk about this psychometric testing also during this. We'll touch upon it. Paramjit has an experience in IT, hospitality, non-profit, warehousing, retail, and he has been in close interaction with UK and US based MNCs. So he's the right guy. Right. Actually, he should be on the other side of the fence as expert, and I think, change the script, and I will use him as expert only today, in between. And he is a published author of several books on diverse topics, which are related to HR and industrial relations, labor law, marketing, logistics, supply chain management, and many of these books are being used as as course material in MBA institutions like Nasi Monji Institute of Management Studies, Mumbai, etc. His skills also include talent acquisition at leadership levels across South Asia. So, gentlemen, it's a privilege to have him on board today, and we would be we would not let him go without giving valuable insights, and also we will use his services in times to come, definitely. Paramjit has received Top HR Minds in India Award at the World HRD Congress in February 2018 also. So, Paramjit, it's an honor, sir, indeed, to have you here. And I'm sure all our audience will immensely benefit from this interaction. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
So I'll just, without much delay, I will just introduce our guests, experts today. Colonel Amitabh Shergill. So Amitabh is an Armored Corps officer with 20 years, more than 20 years of service, and now he is, Manish Ahuja is also there. Manish himself is an expert. Manish, what are you doing on the other side?
Hi, sir. Thanks. Apologies, joined late on the link. Pleasure to be here. I'm trying to make a living on the other side, sir.
No, you're not trying to make a living on the side. We will soon have you on board here as part of expert team, and we will definitely love to learn from you as well. But right now, I would focus on Amitabh.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Amitabh is Armored Corps officer with more than 20 years of service, and he is right now with delivery. He is the director of operations with delivery. He handles last mile, first mile, mid mile operations for North India. And now, of course, I think, Amitabh, correct me if I'm wrong, you're also, your this thing has expanded, reach has expanded, and you're also looking at certain countries outside India as well. Is that correct?
No. I'm actually handling North India operations out here. It's primarily only in India.
Okay.
We have a separate team for global operations there.
Okay, I think I confused with Satya. So, no worries. North India and last mile delivery is always a challenge. We'll come to that. Amitabh, welcome on the show. It's a pleasure having you on board, and we would love to extract maximum information out of you, which will be of help to the our audience. I'm sure you will not keep any information with you.
Thanks. Pleasure being here. I'm sure you can pick my brains as much as you want. I'll try and help as much as I can. Definitely.
Okay, Satya Yadav is here. Satya is again an Armored Corps officer. Welcome, Satya. Satya on the show. You are mute.
Thank you, sir. It's great to be here back in the community.
Oh, you're welcome. So Satya is head of trust and safety and outreach for Meta India. A lot of Angrezi there. And we will shortly we will try and understand what it all translates into. And he works at the intersection of technology, law, and regulation affecting internet safety, user privacy, and free speech. That's heavy, Satya. It's really heavy. I mean, the job description itself is so heavy. I don't know the role kitna heavy hoga. No, that's a very, very good, it's an immense responsibility, I'm sure. So his role at Meta includes working with the governments and its agencies towards safety and privacy of millions of users that come onto various Meta technology platforms every day. And prior to joining Meta, Satya was leading a cybersecurity advisory at Big Four. I think it was EY. Am I right, Satya? Yeah, and previously he served in Indian Army, and he served in the Armored Regiment. He was a short service commission officer. So when did you leave?
So I left in 2009. After
2009. So it's been quite some time. Okay, great. So welcome to the show, all of you. And let's begin. Before we begin, I want to take a short break here to tell you about Vastra, which is an NGO which Value Talk supports. So, Paramjit, I will give the honor to you for starting the show, and the show is all yours. I will also keep asking, and let's get the maximum juice out of these two successful army officers who are doing pretty well outside and who have done the transition very successfully. So let's start with you, and then we will keep taking the baton.
Sure, lovely. So since Satya's video is on, I'll take him for conversation first. Satya, how do you prefer being called, Captain Yadav or Satya?
Satya is fine, Param.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So, Satya, in 2009 or probably 2007 or 8, what was going through your mind when you decided to move on?
Thanks, Param. I think let me begin by first thanking Captain Vipul and, of course, Manish sir and yourself for having me here. I don't think I'm the best person to be on this side. I see I see Manish Ahuja sir, and of course I see other veterans here who are incredibly successful outside. So I think you should definitely consider who are your experts. I don't think I'm really qualified in front of this audience. I'm sure there are a lot of other accomplished people here. But whatever time I have, I'll try to share nuggets from whatever that I've sort of amassed. In 2009, so essentially, I think my purpose of joining the army was I was very clear. I just wanted to serve for the limited terms of service of 5 years and make the transition outside after 5 years. So it was not like I didn't really decide at the last minute.
So was it what had you studied before joining the OTA?
Yeah. I'm a basic GD soldier, commerce graduate, armored corps officer. Whatever science or tech that I've studied is all in armored corps on the tank. So yeah, very basic graduation.
Okay, so when you switched in 2009, had you started preparing 6 months or a year prior to your leaving, or you just took the bull by the horns after you left?
Yeah, I think a bit of both, because you know how the army life is. Till the last day, you're sort of engrossed in the commanding officer's directions, right? So especially in our times, I don't know how it is now, but there are always limited officers. So, but it would be honest to say that I definitely had eyes on my release date and that what I would be doing outside after, because no pension and nothing, right? No social security as such, right? So I was definitely looking at, but I guess you could say it was more of a warm up. What definitely helped me is to sort of start reading business newspapers. It was more of a drill earlier initially, in the sense that you're reading it but nothing makes sense, but gradually it starts making sense, and more than anything else you start getting a sense of the business world, right? The economy of the country and how things move and what is important really beyond armor, ammunitions and tanks and all of that, right? And supply chains. So it makes sense to get a lay of the land. I guess business newspapers is a great way to start getting a sense of your new world that you probably plan to go in. But large part of the preparation, or large part of when the sword hangs on your head, that's when I guess most people start moving much more. So when I was close, I think the 6 months that you get in the DJR courses, I think they're a great time, because you get, of course, all the faculty members, the ecosystem environment, and also I guess a little bit of time to just ramp up much more on your understanding of the corporate world. So I did a bit of both, initial and also post-release.
So was it reading only, or was it some interactions with people in the corporate, or I don't know?
No interaction. I'm talking about 12 years back when internet and mobile connections there used to be one signal where you had to go and make phone calls.
Yep.
So those are the days. So, and there's no LinkedIn as such. It was, I guess, but not as prevalent and as adopted as it is now. So it was mostly reading. It was very siloed. It was a lot of fascination about just coming out and becoming the CEO of a company or something, because you thought your army officers got so on. So very, very siloed about understanding of how the world is outside, what's the competition like, who would be your peers, what would be your benchmarking. what industry is really good or bad. It was mostly like geopolitical business news that I was reading, but mostly reading, yes.
And anyone else in your family in the armed forces?
Yeah, I'm actually a third generation.
So what were the thoughts that were in the mind of your immediate family
It
at
was
that time?
It was of deep disappointment and loss of hope. That because I think I was doing fairly well in the army by their standards, and it looked like life is good, like a well-doing officer and courses and postings and gradings and all of that. And why would you like rock the ship suddenly after you settled in after 5 years? You got some equity in the system, right? So they were definitely. So it took a lot of working on them.
So
Satya,
what did you do during probably the 1 year between leaving the forces and then joining an organization? Was there a gap? Did you join immediately? What was the process you went through?
Yeah, I guess I'm trying to frame my answers in the sense that it should make like benefit the audience, right? A large part of I guess the 6 months that I spent in the college in IIM Lucknow was I think it was the best time for me in the sense in terms of the preparation time that I got, also in terms of all the mentorship I received. The DJR courses that we get, I have a feeling, at least from my experience in the course, that a large number of people take it because it comes sort of easily. So they take it probably not as seriously as one, like they don't really extract the juice, speaking Colonel Kochhar's language. So I probably did that a lot. And it helped that I did it for IIM Lucknow Noida campus. So it helped that I was based in the corporate hub, right? Unlike my other course mates who were in Indore or Kozhikode or Lucknow, for example. So just I think a lot of focus on just understanding the language, understanding the science of like business, right? The marketing, how various functions operate together, and then relating it to the army experience, and then like the case studies and all that. It looks very academic, but it definitely prepares you to have a like deep understanding of how things operate, the various moving parts of any business for that matter, right? So that's what I think really benefited a lot from. Also engaging with the professors a lot. You could find 1 or 2 mentors. Professors generally are looking for mentees anywhere by tendency of the personality, right? So they latch on to any opportunity when you say, "Can you be my mentor?" and all. And then I think I benefited a lot from a few professors at IIM Lucknow where they guided me a lot, and a lot of going out during that time and just meeting people. It's awkward, especially for an army officer coming out because it's different, right? You're not used to getting the conversation and going out and what would you talk, right? A cup of coffee, like fine, but what beyond hello, how are you? You don't really know the business, you know nothing, right? But after a few sessions, it becomes interesting. I guess fake it till you make it. So you start learning how to fake it to make interesting conversations, and then gradually, I guess you get a better hang of things. So networking, mentorship, I think just making the most out of whatever is thrown at you in those courses, being deeply involved in like just trying to extract the juice again.
So you sound like you're an all-round business kind of a guy. How do you end up in cybersecurity? What was the journey like? What did you do to prepare? How did you end up there?
Yeah, so I don't think I'm a cybersecurity guy. I think I sort of mentioned that earlier as well while talking to, I think, Colonel Kochhar, was it you? I'm more of a business guy because cybersecurity is deeply technical. Cybersecurity is also, it's ever evolving, right? So, and I think at the seniority level that we are pegging ourselves at, I don't think there's a dire need to really be hands-on. As long as you understand the broad structure of like what cybersecurity is and the whole application and how it is beneficial to the business. And so I had a very fortunate that way that I was a non-tech person. I had a few offers from the campus when I as part of campus placement. I was also a placement coordinator, so it just helped to have more visibility. And then I happened to get this opportunity with Wipro where I was leading IT projects for them, for the telecom majors like Aircel and Uninor back then. Right? So So totally like hands-on understanding how the network works, how routers operate, how the IT infra works, how telecom infra works. Mostly on diagrams and mostly just very theoretical knowledge, and then understanding the business of it and how much does the router cost and how much do we sell it to the client. So understanding that maths of it and the man-day effort and the whole billing invoicing cycle. As a project manager, that's so I had a bit of a technical business experience from that. I think I was there only for a year and a half, and I thought that John Bravo has arrived. I know everything, so let's start on your own and let's start a startup. So I started my first startup. I think I was all of 26 when I started my own company. It's called Recon. I think it's still functional. And we started by starting with consulting businesses of resilience and business continuity and business impact. And then slowly, to your question on how cybersecurity happened, we slowly started pivoting to where we found opportunities happened to be in cybersecurity. That's how I think as most entrepreneurs start in services line, that what you get first and then you become experts on it. So then I did some courses like certified ethical hacking, certified forensic investigations. I did the CISSP, a couple of other courses. Did a lot of learning on my own, reading books and all without certification. I think that's where a lot of knowledge comes from, where I could sell things, essentially. Not deliver them so much, but I could go in and sell it and then get a team together to deliver it. So a lot of hustling, which I think a lot of army officers would relate to, right? How do you hustle it?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're today at Meta, right?
Yes.
Is joining Meta a good thing, or is it too much stress? How would you help our audience to relate to it?
Yeah, I think that the best thing that has happened to me in my professional life. I would say that the deepest satisfaction that I received in terms of serving in the army, although to be very honest, I haven't served in active operations. So I don't really have, and I'm sure a lot of people on this call would have, so they would understand much more than me that, the satisfaction of serving for the country and making real life impact in people's lives, right? It's, I guess there's some sort of very deep satisfaction there. And then I did a variety of things, right? Entrepreneurship and all of that. And there's definitely satisfaction there, but the kind of satisfaction that I get in my current role is very different because it impacts millions of people, the things that we do. People spend a lot of time online. There's a lot of things happening online. And my role is right in the forefront of making sure that people stay safe, issues are resolved. We're looking at, I guess we covered a lot of things in the intro that, how do you make sure that people have a voice and they can speak freely, but how do you also make sure that people, that our users, both online and offline, stay safe and, all of that. So it's deeply satisfying in the sense that there's a lot of real world impact that I'm just blessed to have this opportunity.
So a question pops up here, Satya. Normally, a person leaving the forces is considered for a job like security or administration. You've made it into some kind of a tech role, not really into deep tech, but probably administration or probably front ending the tech function. What is the advice that you would give besides reading up, acquiring qualifications, and having a never die attitude?
So Param, I'll further qualify this question. So Satya, you are an armored officer. You worked in EY in cybersecurity, and for undertaking this journey, from armored officer to your own startup in kind of related cybersecurity field, and then going to EY and then going to Meta, all semi-technical, pseudo-technical, business, policy-related issues, which have a mix of technology, which have a mix of regulatory also, right? How did you map your experience in the army to convince the interviewer or the selector that you are fit for this job? While I'll give you a breather to articulate your answer, we will move to Amitabh Shergill, Colonel Shergill now. Okay, so Satya, you articulate the answer. Basically, what we want from you is that there is a lot of people keep complaining, I am from armored, I am from infantry, I am from artillery, I don't have this knowledge, I don't have that knowledge, etc., which I never agreed to. So here is you and Amitabh both actually in a kind of a, tech related roles, though it may not be purely tech, but the companies are tech. Okay. And how did you map your experience and how did you convince the person who was selecting you that you were fit for this job? I mean, you talk to an army officer, or when I say army officer, it's defense officer. So you talk to a defense officer, we have been doing operations since a very long time. And that, to a certain extent, that's true also. But how different is this? How is this operations in, especially last mile, very pressure intensive role when it is delivery and delivering at the right location at the right time to the right person, So how is it different, and how your army experiences help you?
Yeah, hi, thanks, Manish. At the outset, thanks for getting me on out here. It's a pleasure to talk to you guys. Well, obviously, operations, you just can't even compare what you do in the armed forces versus what you're going to be doing in the corporate world. The biggest difference is a life and death situation. Here, it's not life and death. So you're in, hardcore operations in army, and I've been in J&K myself. I work in the most intense environments. So here, look, I think that makes it easier for me because in the corporate world, the operations team is actually the the backbone of the company. To be very honest, everything is driven through the operations. These are the guys who generate the money, or they can use you the money. They are the ones who are the most accountable to P&L, as they call it, the profit and loss. It is also quite intense. A lot of pressure as far as operations in the corporate world is concerned. So what really helps you, in those tough times, or rather those intense times out here, is definitely, when you compare it a little bit to your armed forces background and you say, look, I mean, it's not life and death, is it? So it just can't be that difficult. So you always manage to wade through it, and you manage to find a way, find a solution. And that's what you try to convey to your team as well, that look, it's not the end of the world, and we can always work through something or the other. So it's two different things altogether. You just can't compare it, but yeah, you can take some lessons from it, definitely.
Right. So what all preparations did you do before joining this? I mean, and what would you have done differently if you were to leave today?
No, to be very honest, I don't think I would have done anything differently. Considering, I heard Satya talk about, how he went about it, and there's not much change, to be very honest. He may have done it about 12, 13 years back, and I've done it about 2 years back. So, in that sense, not much has changed on ground, other than probably, the means of communication that you were mentioning. But, anybody who's planning to leave, one of my first things that I ever tell them is, you got to be 120% convinced. Even if you are at, say, 99%, then please don't quit. But if if you are at least 120%, then please go ahead and start preparing for it. You need to put in a lot of hard work. There'll be barely 0.1% cases where you would have heard of people, an opportunity just falling into their lap because of the kind of connection they may have had. Those are very, very few and far between, and exceptionally rare. Those cases are there, but well, that's not what we work towards. I had nothing. I'll be very honest. I had nothing in my hand at the time I decided to leave, but I was very, very convinced that I wanted to move on, and that I need to move on now if I have to, because at the time when I left, I was about 46 already, almost 46. And in the corporate world, that's reaching the glass ceiling, to be very honest, if you want a good profile, right? And People then start beyond that. They start looking at you with a slightly biased view that okay, he's been in the armed forces for so long, and he may be very rigid in his thoughts and all those kind of things. So for me, that was one of the major thoughts that look, if I have to move on and I have to grow in the organization wherever I go or go in the profession, then I need to leave now. And so obviously, I didn't put in probably I put in about probably an hour, a year and a half into meeting people, interacting, attending seminars, interacting with people in the corporate structure, both people from the armed forces background as well as a lot of people in the civilians setup as well. Building up your profile, interacting with people, understanding what the ecosystem really is outside, and where you stand in that. And to be very honest, if you are confident about your own abilities and also what you see outside, it's not as dangerous as people think, or it's not as intimidating. If you're good at your job, I think you'll find a place. Yeah. So as far as my preparations were concerned, like a typical ex-forces person, security always comes to your mind because that is something as a subject which comes easily to us. So while talking to certain people, I was told that a certification called the CPP, which a lot of the security people like to take on, and is equivalent to a PMP of a project management. That's the kind of value which is given to a CPP. So I said, okay, well, let's start with that. And I started the preparations, and you have to invest. You have to invest your time and you have to invest your money. And side by side, you're doing a lot of other things at the same time. Like I said, interacting with people, going for seminars, building a profile on LinkedIn, making your resume. But at the end of the day, it needs to be done professionally. I mean, we'll talk about that separately. So yeah, these kind of preparations, about a year. That's generally what I had to put in, about a year and a half.
So please note. I want everyone to note this point. Preparation of over an year. Okay, it's not that today you decide, okay, I want to leave, and in next 2-3 months you leave, and then suddenly you find yourself high and dry on the CV street. So, and then you say that jobs are not there or something. So you need to prepare, and I think 1 year is a very fair amount of time where you can make up your mind. Yeah. Sorry, Amitabh, please go ahead.
Yeah, so that's just what I wanted to say as far as preparing was concerned, and at the end of the day, let's put it in a nutshell that hard work pays. So you got to put in the hours, you got to put in the hard work, and you will see the results. I mean, I've always followed that in my life.
Yeah, great. So coming back to Satya, could you please answer Paramjit's question, which was further amplified by me? How did you map your experience in the army in the form of a CV and an interview, and then land this job, which is the job description itself is very, very heavy?
Yeah, so thanks for the question. It's coming to this job has been a journey, but which is I guess a 10-12-year-old journey. So let me start by to your first question on how do you map your army experience to the corporate experience.
Why I'm asking you this question is because while Colonel Shergill has 20 years of experience, and so he comes with certain amount of experience and everything, and everyone knows that an army officer does this kind of experience. He's polished, he's responsible, etc. While a short service commission officer at the other side is 5 years in the army, and then he's out in the jungle again, and then mapping yourself, and a lot of our audience is from short service commission, as I understand from the various messages which I'm getting. So that's why this question is thrown at you.
Sure, sir. On the interesting on the broader question of short service versus more tenured officers coming out, and this is for the benefit of the short service officers, probably just to motivate them, that I think for the corporate, beyond a certain number of years, the incremental value of army experience, there's a law of diminishing return, right? So
Absolutely.
beyond
I agree.
6, 7 years, for the corporate, that's enough. In the sense of the value that you bring, that discipline, the rigor that you bring, and the ownership, and all of the drive, all of that. I think in terms of mapping the skill set, or so you have to be fortunate to have that exposure.
And now you're being modest. Huh?
No, honestly, if you're blessed to be in a fine regiment where you groomed well and a wide experience of, like, you've done appointments, you've done stuff. Even if you're not done it, I mean, you can fake it till you make it. But again, like, from the experience that you have in the army, and how an army unit works is not very different from how a corporate organization works. It has the same supply chain, it has the same HR, it has the same learning and development training, it has the same operational requirements, maybe different objectives and different aim, but it's driven essentially on the same principles. And everybody is aware and is well aware that the management principles come from the army, right? So there's a reason to that, because all the learning it's a copy paste. Now, when it comes to like mapping your army experience to the corporate experience, there's a little bit of work that is required. And I do spend some time off and on with people who are transitioning out from the army to the corporate. And I do see iterations of CVs, starting from the first CV and to the last CV where we've worked.
Same here. I've been doing it for years now.
and so you would know very well, sir, that the first CV speaks about how they've handled ammunition dump with whatever XYZ, which doesn't really make any sense. But if you put a monetary value to it, or if just to give you like more context, especially for the short service officers and the younger ones, there's no other job in the world where an average age of, say, short service officers at 20 or 21, 22, a 22-year-old officer gets to command a ballpark 150 people across seniority, ranging from 20 years to young recruits. Commanding, in case of armored, or even as troop leader or whatever, a SCON commander, commanding up to 15 tanks, which the cost of their equipment, B vehicles, A vehicles, supply chain, ammunition, the operational understanding of how things will move at a formation level, the understanding of how various organizations within the army work, that level, and then ownership of like those people, their learning and development, their training, their promotions, their appraisals, all of that, right? If you've done a quartermaster, then the supply chain, the food and logistics, everything. I guess, like, without repeating too much, everybody is aware, right? There's no other job that gives you that on the first day. You go in the army, and on the first day you have that level of exposure. Now it's totally new.
Satya, just a second. While Amitabh, while he's bringing out a lot of these points, and they are true also, but this is what we know. That army is like, I want your opinion also. Why I'm not involving Paramjit? Because this is something which is very special to, internal to, specific to army or defense forces.
Absolutely. So you can speak from the other side of the table. I'll tell you from the corporate perspective.
Yeah. So the corporate perspective doesn't know that there is this kind of, functionalities inside army also, or if they know also, they don't really think that it is something similar. So Amitabh, you have 20 years of service. You must have done company commander, squadron commander. You must have done quartermaster. You must have done mess secretary at times, or different roles you must have had. And sometimes you may have been attached to RR or something and done patrolling, given security to ammunition dumps, etc., etc. So, do you really think that what we all do in the army, and when you have to explain it to the person, and that too firstly in the form of 2 pages, okay, and then when you are being interviewed, first of all, you have to get the interview call. So how far you agree with Satya? I am not debating. Satya, whatever you said is absolutely bingo, bang on, but it's not that easy also, especially for an officer who's coming after 20 years.
Yeah, I totally agree, with that. I also agree with what Satya, one of the first things that he said, that, as far as your army experience is concerned or your armed forces experience is concerned, it's it doesn't matter whether it is 5 years or whether it is 15 years. It's not going to give you any kind of advantage. Uh, and like I said, there is always a glass ceiling beyond a certain age profile, and that's why you see a lot of people today also who quit at the after completing 20 years because they still are in their early 40s and are in a position to get good roles outside. But yeah, coming back to your CV, I'll give you a very personal example out here. I initially started making the CV. Obviously, like I said, in that 1 year preparation time, I said I'll went through a number of tons of CVs. Some posted online, some asking some people, and getting some good CVs, and then I tried to write my own CV. And I thought that I had done a pretty bang up job about it, to be very honest, because my command over the language was quite good. So I said, well, I can always use good language. I can always present it in a good manner, and I did make it into those two pages as you call it, and I thought I had done a really good job. But then I realized that come what may, you need to get some kind of professional help to embellish it to the kind of requirement which is there outside. And to be very honest, did get in touch with a couple of people, and then finally the third person I got in touch was able to make it the kind of CV which would be, let's say, corporate friendly, or let's say eyeball friendly. Seeing the deluge of CVs which are there to say, okay, there's something catches the eye. And I'll be very honest, the person who made the CV, who herself is a professional CV maker, used the entire English of mine only. Used my
Absolutely.
English completely, but the way she presented it was a completely different thing. And so that for me was a big eye opener. Initially, I thought, oh well, I've done a fabulous job about it. But then when I saw her and the way she had made it, it made such a huge difference. So yeah, so you should be willing to be more accepting of other people and their expertise, and that is one major thing. The other thing, when it comes to interviews, to be very clear on that, you already come with a certain standing. When you come into an interview, being an armed forces person, you come with a certain standing and a certain impression which is already there in the minds of the person who is interviewing you, that you're coming from that kind of a background. It just stops there. Let's be very clear. It just stops there. Vis-a-vis when you're, vis-a-vis they would be when interviewing somebody who's from a CV background. Thereafter, it's you who is how you are going to sell yourself and how you are going to communicate, and how you are going to be able to convince the other person in front of you that how open you are to learning and how open you are to mold yourself even more. That is the most important aspect, right? The CV has got you that interview.
So I will
Yeah.
intervene here. What both Satya and Amitabh are saying is that while you may have done a lot of things which have a parallel in the industry, which, I mean, you have the quartermaster, which is basically supply chain, you have, or inventory management, and you have done company commander, squadron commander role in operations. You may have handled some kind of project, also small projects within the army, and you have been handling equipment which is worth billions or millions. But how do you have to kind of translate into a language which the civil street understands, which the business understands, and they should have, by reading those 2 pages, they should have that confidence that the person, what we are looking for, he has done it, though he may have done it in a different environment. Okay, so that is one thing. But I am of a very strong opinion that if you can land yourself an interview, most likely you will crack it as a defense officer.
I would like to give a different perspective.
Yeah.
It depends actually on the person on the other side of the table, the person who's recruiting, the person who's interviewing you, whether it's a junior person or a senior person. You'd be very fortunate if the interviewer has a defense background, some relative in the forces, or probably a
Which is very rare,
officer. That's very rare. So you've got to do your research about the company as well as who's going to be interviewing you. And it's all right. And this is for all the audience that we have here. It's all right to ask who is going to be interviewing you. It sounds professional.
Very right.
Once you are in the interview, like Colonel Shergill said, if you've done a job, then it's easy to prove your track record. If you've done a job well, your references will speak for themselves. But if you're fresh out of the forces, and if you're applying for a job as a newbie, to a corporate interviewer, it does not matter whatever X amount of resources you've handled. Yes, it is impressive, but what the interviewer is looking for is how can you contribute to their organization?
Absolutely.
What is it you bring to the table? And invariably in the conversation, a question will pop up. What can you do for us? And at that time, if you relate what you've done in the army, it does not matter. What you have to explain is your understanding of the research that you've done about that company. What are the different functions?
Exactly. So
which
one
functions
point.
you can apply your experience to, and which ones you cannot apply your experience to. Be clear and be open.
So the important point which Paramjit has brought out is, before the interview, first of all, if you get an interview call, which is a different topic, we'll come to that also. If you get the interview call, you, before appearing for that interview, you have to, sorry, Satya and Amitabh, we are just repeating at the cost of, repetition, we are doing it. You have to do the research about the company for which you are appearing for the interview. You must know what that company does, what is that role which you are appearing for, and what that role would entail, what is your job likely to be, and how do you fit into that job. You should be kind of ready with those kind of answers. You should have at least a direction that how I would lead this.
Yes.
So if you know what the company does, it helps. But
and I agree with what Satya and Colonel Shergill have said. Over the past 2 decades, I have hired short service commission, PMR officers, as well as tenured officers. The common perception, and it's not me, it is the interviewers, because I don't interview every candidate. It's a general perception from recruitment consultants as well as interviewers from other organizations that a short service commission is more malleable.
Absolutely.
And which is why he or she is preferred. It's the amount of the quantum of service does not matter. That is probably because of the perception has been made by the kind of people that the interviewers have met. So whilst I understand that each officer transitioning out of the forces into corporate needs a certain bit of preparation, I feel instinctively it is more of a challenge for a senior officer.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Why? Because the senior officer comes with a perceived baggage, whereas actually he does not. You talk to the senior officer, you'll find a lot of value that he can contribute to the organization. But interviewers are short on time. They don't have the time to have a conversation. So I can identify with Colonel Shergill when he says that there have been struggles, and that is what I'd like to get into for the purpose of our audience. So Colonel Shergill, what are the kind of struggles that you faced in securing interviews?
Yeah, so well, to be very honest, you got to keep your ego in your pocket, to be very clear. That's the first thing. And you have to be more than willing to accept that you're not the most sought after person out there, right? And you're one amongst the millions who's looking for a job or an opportunity. When you go, you send your applications. There's going to be about 1,000 rejections, or there's going to be 1,000 no response. Let's forget rejection. It's going to be no response, and then you realize that that's wherein the more you network, the more you meet kind of people, you kind of, like I say, understand the ecosystem and what they are looking for. Yes, a little bit of your contacts may get you an interview, but that will not get you a job. Yes, I knew a lot of people because I was staying here in Delhi NCR all my life. I have my friends who are in the corporate world. A few of them were able to organize some interviews through some of their connects. But at the end of the day, it's what the recruiter wants and what he sees in you and what you can bring to the table as what you have brought out is what the bottom line is. Like I said, also that being an armed forces background, you're already at a certain platform, right? But thereafter, that's not going to get you the job. What's going to get you the job is your capabilities, your ability to communicate, that you're willing to learn, that you are malleable, and because at the end of the day, what you are going to be doing, whichever company it is, whether it is a delivery or whether it's a Meta, whichever company you join, they will train you at the end of the day. It's not that we come straight away into the job and you're thrown at the deep end. None of the companies are going to do that. You are going to be trained into it. So what he's actually looking at for somebody who's coming in for the first time is your attitude, your positive attitude, your communication abilities, your ability to learn, your willingness to learn, how malleable you are. That's what it is, because you are not qualified for any of the companies, to be very honest. What you bring
there is also a perception that whilst senior officers get lesser are liable to get lesser offers, but they settle in an organization faster. It's a perception. What would you say to that?
Yeah, it is, because I think you also bring a lot of experience to the table. Your interaction with people, your over the years, the kind of experience you have gained, the confidence that comes in, so obviously that's why you settle in a lot faster. You are also at that particular age where you are not going to be jumping so often between jobs. You want to be a lot more settled in life, vis-a-vis somebody who is, let's say, 30 and is could be highly ambitious or could be highly willing to move and is looking at it that, okay, every 2 years I must move and I must build my profile and all those kind of things. So that's why a guy who's slightly older, or in, say, let's say somebody who's commanded his unit and then moved out, then obviously they're going to be a lot more settled because that's what they're looking at.
Generally, people gravitate towards armed forces officers more than they do to other, let's say, civilians. Whether it is for grievance hearing or a shoulder to cry on or a problem to solve, it's seen as a very common tendency of civilians to gravitate towards army officers who even though they may have recently joined and they don't know them very well. Have you had such an experience?
No, not really, because a little bit, yes. Obviously, they tend to ask about your experiences. If they ask, that's the only time I mention it. Otherwise, I don't talk about it at all, to be very honest. And
not at your peer level.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. There are sometimes the younger lot that does come up to you and maybe seek some kind of guidance because they know the kind of experience that you've been through. And that's what I was just saying out here, that initially when I was talking, that you're talking about your experiences. It's not, operations is not life and death, vis-a-vis what it is in the armed forces. So when pressures are up, or when appraisal time is there, or let's say time to deliver is there, and the younger lot feels the pressure. So yeah, they do tend to approach a little bit, but not really so much. Today's generation is quite independent, and they're quite happy to do it their way.
Okay, Paramjit, I would like to answer that question actually, because I have faced that. I faced it very often actually, and that's really true actually. Maybe it may also be because especially with the senior lot, when you leave after 15-20 years of service, and you have people younger than you who are working there, and they look at you like a kind of a person who has experience and who has more wisdom than you, and plus you and defense officer, when he goes outside, he's already a polished guy, and he has a different personality, stands out, and that is how they feel that maybe he would be able to offer a genuine advice. And it's not that I'm not into job anymore, and not looking for one also. So till date, I get from all my previous companies, till date, I keep getting various kind of, and in fact, got so motivated because I was getting so many of these, people wanted the advice, that I did a life coach, this thing, organization transformational coach, from ICF certified. I did that course also to, get into the grind even better. But that's mainly because they look at you as a kind of a wiser person who has seen maybe much more in life, and they expect a genuine advice from you.
Satya, do you
But
feel
people get swayed away also. It's a very double-edged weapon. Sometimes your peer also come, and if you speak out something, it may go against you also. So
Satya, thank you, sir. Satya, do you feel your colleagues consider you wise, or they fawn over you?
They can't fall over me. I'm too tall for them. But I totally relate to what you referred to earlier, and even Kochhar said. I think I see that a lot happening, not only in Meta, but across companies and across even social circles. I think that's also a lot to do with just it could be a stereotype, but it also be the personality radiance that we give off. Like, this is a trustworthy person. He's an ex-officer. He's reliable. He's resilient. We can confide. It could be that reason. It could also be like very personality driven. Nothing good or bad about it.
Not political.
Non-political, maybe.
No, the general perception is that armed forces officers are apolitical. That's true. Manish sir,
I wanted to go back to the previous question. I thought there's
please. That's an important thing.
Yeah, on the CV thing, and the experience of translation of, that's I think a lot of people will probably find value, hopefully. So I think a good starting point is probably to go back to fixing your variables. So it's a given that you don't have any corporate experience. You can't do anything about it. What experience you have is army experience. That's a given, right? You can't change that. Now, it's also a given that everybody is not same. All officers are not alike, both within the army and outside the army. Also, everybody's personal aspirations and the time and phase of life that they are in, and the whole social construct they're around, they may be very different, right? So people have different aspirations depending on younger officer, older officer, family background, all of that. So considering all of that, I think it's very different the way you should approach a transition. Specifically about just the CV bit, networking definitely helps, as Param also spoke about. But I get a lot of CVs for referring, and I'm sure a lot of other people who are in the industry, they get a lot of CVs. But
you're about to get some more.
You're not doing any favor to anybody just by throwing whatever you have in your inbox for reference. So I guess I feel really awkward to talk a lot about myself, but just if it motivates people, the first job offer that I had immediately after the army, after doing the DJR course on campus, was, in terms of variety, it was crazy because I didn't expect it. One, I had this offer from Wipro for project management for IT projects, totally non-tech background, right? I had offer from British Gas to do senior quality auditor, to audit their quality systems. I had offer from L&T to do, I think it was recruitment, HR recruitment. I had offer from Wipro BPO to do L&D for them. I had offer from Market Source to lead their business in Mumbai for West and South. Market Source is this channel partner for Foster's, and they sell beer back then. It's interesting. I joined them for a month. And I think I had a few more offers. I had an offer for Infosys for the HR business partner. Now, out of these 3-4 are clearly HR roles. There's one which is project manager IT. There's one business. Did I share the same CV with everybody when I applied for those roles? No. Even today, if I'm applying for a role, would I just share whatever CV I have? It's not the CV that goes to the job. It's the job that should come to the CV. In the sense, if you first go to the job, look at the JD, look at what exactly is required. If you're applying at 2 jobs at the same time, and they are very minor difference between the two, you still need 2 CVs. Because they're 2 different people who have made those job descriptions, and they're looking for 2 very different set of profiles.
Golden words.
You look at the JD, there are keywords there in the JD, which essentially tell you what are they looking at, both hardcore functional knowledge as well as also softer skills. Like to Param's point, that the whole perception of the stereotype of like more rigid and all that. If you think that it's a role which probably needs you to demonstrate that you're not rigid, make sure that you fit into your CV and also in the interview if you land it. So stuff like that. It's a very, very highly customized, rigorous process of making a CV for each job description that you're making. So just wanted to highlight that.
Sure. So Manish sir, we've started getting some questions. If
we'll take on those questions. I'll just look at the time. Yeah, just one more question from both of you as well as Param. I'll come to Paramjit later. Satya and Amitabh, both of you, did you, as Amitabh already brought out that he took help in, CV writing, and Satya, you also took some professional help for your building up your resume?
No, I didn't, sir. Maybe it was a function that we didn't have many options back then, but I also thought that like probably I could do the most justice to my experience.
Yeah, I mean, because this is a debatable point, and as Amitabh brought out earlier, that most of the English which the expert used was his own English, but she presented it in a different manner. So it works both ways. But both of you, did you undergo any kind of psychometric test before joining this the organization?
No, I didn't.
No, not me.
Okay, so I have. In fact, I have undergone psychometric tests. Maybe they thought that I was a psycho. So I have undergone psychometric tests at more than 3 organizations, and one was Reliance, the other was Sterlite Technologies, and the other was abroad. In all these 3 cases, I was, it was a senior level position, and thereafter I have recruited many people, and many of the candidates were rejected because they didn't clear the psychometric test. So I would just request Paramjit to throw a little bit of light on what is this psychometric test all about. In fact, I was seeing the name Thompson.
Thomas profiling.
Yeah, Thomas profiling. That was the thing which I was also made to undergo. So can you just give us brief about this and how all these people, some of the audience may have to undergo this psychometric test? So it will be helpful for all of them.
Sure. Nupur, we'll just come to your questions in a bit. Let me just clarify on the psychometric assessments. These are basically assessments which are made through questionnaires. When you attend an interview or you attend multiple rounds of interviews, in one of the rounds, it may be a paper and pen test or it may be a computer-based test. They may not label it as a psychometric test. They may give you a questionnaire to fill out, and there will be questions of various forms which will be designed to bring out your natural proclivities. So, for example, the MBTI is a Myers-Briggs type indicator which brings out whether you are an introvert, extrovert, whether you are a thinking or a sensing person. Depending on the job, there are various personality traits and attributes which organizations find useful for certain jobs, and there are various organizations which use other psychometric tests like Thomas profiling, etc., to find out how well you would work, let's say, in a team. So if your role is a single contributor role or a leadership role, the psychometric assessment will vary. If you're going to be in a leadership role, then you will need to work with other people. In that case, a DISC profiling or a dominant, are you a dominant personality, are you an inductive personality, etc., etc. So those are the kind of assessments that an organization wants to make. Now, these assessments are not done by every organization. There are certain medium level organizations which do this, and there are certain high level organizations or large scale organizations which do not do this. It all depends on the kind of a role that you're going to and the kind of organization that you're going to. Startups or organizations which are probably 5 years old in the system normally don't go for psychometric assessments. Well established old economy organizations, pharma, manufacturing, they will probably have a psychometric round, which may or may not be labeled as a psychometric assessment. The best way to do it is don't, while answering the questions, is don't try to outwit the organization. Respond as you would best, as you would naturally respond. That will get the best assessments. And if you get routed out in the psychometric assessment, probably that job wasn't for you. So it's all right. But where you score and get through the psychometric assessment, that means you are well aligned as far as your personality is concerned with the job requirements. So believe me that there will be very few people who will actually get qualified, and out of those few, then your competition is automatically reduced. Then it's a matter of merit, what you've done in the past, how you sell yourself, like Colonel Shergill said.
And also it is you have to complete take this profiling in a limited time. You're giving limited time for attempting,
Yes, so don't try to think too much. Just respond as your first response.
Yeah, right. So we'll open the question and answer session now, so that people can directly ask the questions.
So
Anybody?
First
please.
one is Nupur, I think. Nupur, would you like to ask the question yourself, or shall I read it out for you? Yes, it was addressed to Captain Yadav. Satya, if you could elaborate on the requirements and expectations from your job at Meta.
Okay, that's a long answer. But if you're wondering what essentially my team does at Meta is, we're primarily at the interface of the company and government agencies, where we engage with them on various issues that are prevalent on social media, including Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, and other intermediaries also have similar issues, where we talk about like online safety issues, user privacy, data protection issues, offer like millions of users who come on a platform on a daily basis. So essentially engaging with ministries, engaging with law enforcement agencies, regulators, top leadership at all these places, where you go and it's an advocacy role where you go out and speak about the efforts of the company, and also take feedback and come back and sort of solve for these issues on the platform. Now, what does that entail? That entails, I guess that's the essence of the question, that what does it really require? It may require one, two, or a combination of these things. One requires legal understanding of the overall legal regulatory space when it comes to tech regulation, be it the IT Act or the internet rules, the IT rules which came out last year, or other sort of regulations that keep coming in, some understanding of IPC, CPCRs, also some understanding of the draft data protection bill, the e-commerce policies that keep coming out. So understanding of this legal regulatory space and how it is applicable to especially digital media, that's one piece. It's good if you have that understanding. It could be academic understanding, because it's fairly nascent and new field. So it's okay if you don't have much experience there and you're more academic, but you have to have deep academic, because you have to compensate for lack of experience. So have deep academic experience, understanding of these issues. Right? That's one. On the other side, the other track that you probably would need is deep technical knowledge of, not in the sense how things happen, but more like technical understanding of how the social media operates, what are the issues that are prevalent. For example, if I would say that child safety is a big issue on social media, a lot of people would not know, but if you'd apply for this role, you would have to probably deep dive into that issue on tech platforms, or terrorism, for example, or frauds and scams, or misinformation harm, or election integrity, how it affects elections in countries. So issues like that. So you have to deep dive on these issues, and each of these issues is like fairly deep and technical. Also like rigorous sort of research that you available. So feel free to follow up on these. And then of course there's a third piece, which is software angle of it, where you have the skills to communicate. It could be whatever is given to you, but you just go out and are able to have that sales pitch or that communication that of like the quality to influence people of whatever narrative you bring. So those are three broad things, and there are multiple smaller tracks I can speak to, but broadly legal, regulatory, technical, and advocacy.
Okay. The next one up is Abhishek. Would you like to unmute your mic and ask directly?
Sir, I have a question to Colonel Amitabh, sir. Sir, I've been in logistic officer and AC officer for last 10 years, and what are the advantages for people like us who are being bit specific domain for the companies like delivery or Amazon to give a certain sort of preference, or they put up or they know that thing that there are certain people in the armed forces belong to certain specific domains which can be utilized by the corporates or companies like delivery or the Amazon.
Yeah, so Sheikh, like what I had said earlier, that irrespective of what you have done in the organization, that really makes no difference unless and until you are being recruited by somebody who himself has been in the forces and understands a little bit about that. Whether you have been in ASC, whether you're in AOC or you're in the fighting arms, since you're going to be applying for a job for the first time, like I said, what he's looking at is your fit in the organization, your communication skills, your positivity. Certain companies which you're referring to, like whether it is an Amazon or a delivery, it hardly makes a difference whether you have come from a supply chain experience or whether you come from any arm of the army. In certain places also, what I can give you an insight into is, like, let's say even a company like a Reliance Retail, where there are certain people who are already there from the armed forces background and maybe involved in the recruiting process. They may ask for a person that, okay, look, I'm looking for a signals officer, I'm looking for an ASC officer or something on those lines. Only then maybe you may say, okay, fine, that may be of benefit to you. But other than that, it hardly makes a difference as to which arm you come from and whether you have a supply chain background. And when you say supply chain background, it's very different to what is there outside. The term supply chain in the army, while we all have used this in the CVs and we tend to use it in a resume, but we all start from scratch when it comes to any one of these companies, to be honest.
Lovely. Thank you. Wing Commander Chaudhary, would you like to ask your question next?
Right, sir. Thank you.
Good evening, sir. Thank you very much for giving an opportunity to ask a question.
Please go ahead.
Sir, the question has got two parts, and part of the question has been answered during the conversation by Satya sir and Amitabh sir. There was a mention that 46 years is a ceiling. I am 53. I think it is top of the ceiling. And sir, my forte is human and the physical security 2 tenures in the LU, which is CIU of the Indian Army. And then being the administrative branch officer, most of the remaining period is in HR and administration, sir. The part one is, sir, since we have HR is the part of the administration of the branch of the Indian Air Force, is the HR in the corporate is very tight, cornered domain where you can't get in? And second question is, if so, the leftover part is human and physical security at 53, would I be able to make some inroads, sir?
Param, this question is actually to be answered by you only.
Not a problem. I'll answer it very briefly and quickly and succinctly. Commander Chaudhary, you don't have to worry. We'll be on the lookout for you when you come out at 58 or 60. The retirement age now is 75, not in the civilian world, it's 75, it's not 60 anymore, or 58 for that matter. So it doesn't matter what age you are, you just have to display the attributes which Satya and Colonel Shergill just shared. Be malleable, be open, justify yourself, defend your position, your candidature, and you're in. The other part of the question was whether HR and administration is different in the civilian world. Yes, it is. There's a world of a difference. So if your interest is in security, administration is where you should be targeting. If you want to get into HR, you need to have an MBA in HR to get a decent position. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you very much, sir. I got the answers. Thank you.
Next up is Ashish.
Ashish, go ahead, please.
Very good evening to all the panelists and the audience, and special good evening to Colonel Amitabh Shergill. Sir, I'm Major Ashish Gambani and also an ex-18 cavalry officer. And Colonel Amitabh Shergill has been my first commanding officer when I got commissioned into 18 cavalry. Sir, since I'm a short service officer, so in another few years I shall soon be transitioning from armed forces to corporate. It was a very good insights what everyone has presented in this meeting, and sir, I would like to put up a question that is in terms of compensation. Like once we transition from armed forces to corporate, so what is the compensation that one should look out for? Is it vis-a-vis some fixed, particularly 2.5 times or 5 times or 10 times? Or is it in comparison with one person from transitioning from corporate to corporate, the same experience level?
I think, both of us can take this question. I'll take it on first and then maybe Satya can add to it, since...
Amitabh, you should be answering this question by inviting him over drinks,
Yeah, so I'll take this question on to a certain part. So there is no such fixed compensation. Well, look, I'll be very honest. All the people outside in the corporate world are fully aware of what you're getting. Okay, you are also asked to submit your last pay package, and they also know where a short service officer stands will be a person who's already had the experience of about 20 years and is coming with pensions. They are very, very clear, and they also know that a person who's coming from the short service background is a far more hungrier person and is a far more, I wouldn't use the word desperate, but definitely far more, insecure about getting a job, and they tend to play on that, right? The HR nowadays is very sharp about all these things. There are different companies. There are companies who are good paymasters. There are companies who are, medium in the market, and depends on the kind of profile that you are. So you must ask for what you want, and thereafter negotiate. There's no such, limit of twice or thrice or whatever it is, or 10%, 20%, whatever it is. It depends on the profile, and it also depends on the company, and it depends on your negotiating skills. Yeah. So maybe Satya can also throw some light on that.
Yeah, I think you covered it well, sir. I want to go back a step and sort of, if you're a short service officer, I would definitely say that don't think so much about compensation in the beginning. Look at compensations can become 10 times, 20 times in a matter of 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years, right? It's not uncommon for people to start at 10 lakhs and reach 2 crores, 3 crores, 50 lakhs, whatever, depending on industry sector they are in. It's not very uncommon. But what is required there is probably to figure out what's your overall objective, right, from your transition. Are you looking at just the next best job and then keep at it? Or if you have more time, then are you invested in focusing on a particular line of work and then grow there and hopefully aim? So averaging out your compensation over the next 10 years, for example. So if you're earning, say, starting out 20 lakhs, and then you go incrementally from 20 to 25 and 30 and whatever, reach 50 lakhs, for example, in 10 years, versus you starting at 10 lakhs, hypothetical, because there's a certain domain that you picked up which you're excited about, and it's a growing domain or industry or whatever job profile. You're struggling 2-3 years, and then 5th, 6th year onwards, you're hitting 70, 81 crore, and then going beyond that. So just look at it over a longer span is my recommendation. Don't look at it from what would you make immediately. Having said that, whenever you decide, whatever you decide, once you made up your mind, negotiate ruthlessly and negotiate hard, because HR would always undersell you and underpay you. It's their KRA to save money for their organization, and it's totally on you once you firmed up on a particular job to I guess don't be insecure about losing the job, because after a certain process of interviews and reaching up to the offer letter and salary negotiation, there's a considerable work that has gone in by both parties. So don't think that just one conversation where you're negotiating hard would end up like your chances. So negotiation is probably something that I think 4Gs don't do a lot, but definitely you should do.
At the same time, I would say don't short sell yourself also. If you're sure that you're bringing value to the table, and then they will also value you. But yes, I think both Satya and Amitabh have covered it very, very well. And there was I could see, Param grinning in between. So Param, you can share what made you grin,
Ashish, it's very premature to put a figure on what you would get. Just be interested in the job. If you get it, great, because your first job, the faster you get it, the better it is, because that's going to start your track record. If the job is of interest to you, salary doesn't matter. It will grow.
Yeah. So I think on that note, we would just close this session. But Param, this last line is very important, what you just said. If the job is of interest to you, this is a very, very deep line actually. So you, like Satya said that he had 5 jobs, So I mean, he had 3 HR jobs. Point is, and they may be better paying than what he actually joined. I don't know. So was he interested in HR? Should he have taken that job because it was better paying job? Or should somebody pick up a job which may be a low paying job and it may be 30-40% lesser than what the other job is offering? Should you pick up a job which is of interest to you? This is a very important question, and a lot of people go wrong on this particular thing. So what would you say, Param, before we close this session and say thanks to our experts?
Can I just interject for one little thing? Because I've just seen a lot of questions out here with regard to certifications. Whether we should do this certification or whether we should do that certification, and a lot of the questions circulate around these certifications today. So my 2-bit on just this certification part is just that while a certification is good to do, you must do certain professional certification. Just don't do any certification. That is one, right? For example, like a PMP for a project manager, or a CPP for a security, or a certified fraud examiner, like what Satya was mentioning, a CFE or a CISP, like that. These are very, very certain and niche certifications which have a fair amount of value. They will not get you a job. I get a lot of questions, then I should be ready-made to get a job and the guy is going to hire me. No, they're not going to hire you just based on that. But it will definitely put you on a pedestal, and it will put you when they say कि वो 19-20 का जो फर्क होता है, तो उसमें आपको जरूर फर्क होगा. In case you are competing with somebody and you both are equivalent, and they see that one guy has done a CPP and the other has not, then the guy who's done a CPP will definitely get that job if they are equivalent on all other aspects. Because they also look at it from the point of view that you are willing to learn, you are willing to adapt, willing to mold yourself. Those are the important aspects of doing this certification, and not so much the certification itself. So I thought I'll just add that.
So this particular topic, actually, certification and MBA, value of MBA, etc. I would request, we have done 2-3 talks before this also for veteran transition. So just go over it, and you will get a fair amount of idea. Very well brought out by Amitabh, where he covered it bang on. And Param, this particular thing, what is the right thing? Better salary, job of interest?
It depends on your priority. If you are at a place in life where money is more important, please pick up the first job which is paying you the best salary. If you're looking at it from a long-term perspective, then pick up the job that you like. Don't bother about the salary. It will grow.
This is what I wanted to hear, actually. And I am telling you, most of us go wrong in this particular thing. We pick up the job which is better paying, and we always compare the job in terms of salary.
Yeah.
So if you have
and
a
so
longer
that is And sir, that is natural because of peer pressure.
Peer pressure also, and maybe because officer who's transitioning doesn't have that much of this thing, as Satya brought out, that if you are, there for a longer inning, if you have 5, 6 years, you're 10 years, you're going to work in corporate sector, then your salary will increase. Okay, so you don't have this thing. If you are worth your salt and you're doing a good job, your salary will increase. So salary should not be the only criteria to pick up a job.
Yeah.
So please keep this in mind. And with this, we'll just wrap up this session. We will thank Paramjit, Mr. Paramjit Lamba for sparing his time and be with us. And ladies and gentlemen, we are in constant touch with Paramjit, and we will not let him sleep over it. And we will keep pestering him for supporting the veteran transition, and we will keep pushing him for getting us some jobs. And Param, this is as I said earlier, it's a mission for us, and we definitely seek your support in this mission.
Sure, sir. Anytime.
Thank you so much, Param, for sparing your time. And Satya and Colonel Amitabh, it was wonderful having you people, and the kind of insight and the kind of frank and free advice you have given to people. I'm telling you, we don't realize, but this kind of advice from somebody who's already there in the industry, who has faced these kind of challenges, it goes a long way in helping the transition. So the aim of this talk is to make the transition a little bit smoother. And I'm sure that it will definitely help people who have seen this. Please also circulate the word amongst your peers who are planning to do the transition, to go through these talks. And I'm telling you, even Satya and Amitabh, I would request you, any officers who are approaching, which you already must be doing, I'm sure, approaching you on LinkedIn or any other social media, please give the right kind of guidance. And please help out our people in our uniform community. And lastly, thank you everyone for joining this and staying with us and being part of our family, Value Talks family. Please join the channel, Telegram channel, as well as WhatsApp and YouTube channel. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you and Jai Hind.
Thank you, Colonel Shergill.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you.
Gotta focus on yourself, on your faith, on your dreams, on